Good
morning, members. We now call to order the special meeting of this panel on food safety and environmental hygiene. At this moment, I would like to invite the administration's representatives to join us, and let's check who would like to ask questions. Michael Tian, Kwok Ka-ki, Ellen Leung, Sid Ho, Helena Wong, Stephen Ho, Alice Mack. Who else would like to speak? For today's meeting, it will last for 1.5 hours. This is because it's a special meeting, and it's very difficult for the Secretariat to find this venue for us. But then we have to hand over the venue to the next meeting at 12:15. That is the one on alleviation of poverty. So if you would like to get answers from the administration, make sure that you leave behind sufficient time for the administration. Who else would like to speak? Mr. Chen Hangpan. Dr. Cole, Secretary for Food and Health. On the 27th of January 2017, there was a confirmation of the positive H7 avian influenza samples found in mainland imported live poultry. Yesterday, there was a culling. I understand that yesterday you had a meeting with the industry, so please give us a brief word on the incident, and then we can open the floor to members for questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. On the 27th of January 2014, among a batch of live chickens from Shuntek, we found a positive H7AI sample in the imported live chicken. And then we called a meeting of the Steering Committee on Serious Response Level under the Preparedness Plan for Influenza Pandemic. And then we took action. And all the live poultry in the Changshan temporary wholesale poultry market were culled. And then the market will be closed for 21 days. For thorough disinfection and cleansing. Trading of live poultry suspended, and we're going to step up our inspection and the gathering of samples for testing. And then according to the established mechanism, we have already notified the relevant mainland authorities so as to trace the source of infection. Supply of live poultry from the farm to Hong Kong will be suspended, and we'll be making investigations. We'll make sure that all the biosecurity measures will be met with. And then the Center for Health Protection of the Department of Health has located the poultry worker responsible for transporting the consignment of live chickens concerned, who was regarded as a close contact. He was sent to Princess Margaret Hospital for observation. Initial testing shows that he has been tested negative for the virus. We are on the approach to Chinese New Year. We understand the loss caused to the industry, but then we have to safeguard public health. Therefore, we have to be decisive in our actions so as to prevent the spread of the virus. In order to respond to the aspirations of the industry, we are going to assess the impact on the trade and the employees or the market players. And then we are exploring the feasibility of separating the imported live poultry and local live poultry before test results are confirmed. In the past decade or so, the government and the local live poultry industry, as well as the mainland inspection and quarantine authorities and the farm supplying Hong Kong, we have collaboratively built up a resilient and stringent system for the surveillance and control of AI for the purpose of reducing the risk and the outbreak. And we have always been very vigorous in our control, but then we cannot reduce the risk to zero. No system can do that. Occasionally, there will still be AI cases, and this may pose threat to public health, and this will cause repercussions in the industry, causing concerns and anxiety in the society. And the society as a whole has to pay a price for it. In fact, the main risk source of AI infection by humans is from the contact with infected live poultry. On public health grounds, we should consider whether Hong Kong, being a place with scarce land resources and a densely populated city, should continue with the practice enabling close contact between human and poultry. And in fact, there has been a change in the culinary pattern of the ordinary citizens, and there's an increasing consumption of chilled and frozen poultry on the whole. The government, the poultry trade, and citizens have to rethink whether there should still be selling of live poultry in Hong Kong in the long run. We intend to engage a consultant to study and make recommendations in this regard. Thank you, Dr. Ko. If I may read out the names of members wishing to ask questions in this order: Michael Tian, KK Kwok, Leon Leung, Sid Ho, Helen Wong, Stephen Ho, Edis Mac, Chen Hanpeng, Fang Dang, and Raymond Chen. Have I missed anyone? Wu Chi-wai, are you going to ask questions? All right, Wu Chi-wai as well. Priscilla Leung, are you going to ask questions? So Priscilla Leung as well. 12 members on my list, 5 minutes each, including both the question and answer. We may not have time left for a second round, so if you would like to get answers from the officials, please keep enough time for them. And I hope officials will also keep their answers brief. Michael Tian. Madam Chairman, for the avian, influenza, live poultry, traditions, chilled chicken, interests of the chicken traders, all of them have been sort of in it, and we have been waiting for a change for a long time. I don't know how many generations do we have to pass before we can seek a change to our tradition. There's also this question of the eating patterns. Since the handover, we have had 5 times of a similar incident. We are always on the jittery. We don't know when it will come back again. And then the government has to spend $100 million a year to make sure that there won't be a serious incident, there won't be an outbreak. But no one can tell for the test, for the PCR test. We don't know whether it is going to work. There is a suggestion to separate the 2 sources of chickens. Even if we can separate imported chickens from the local chickens, the most we can do is to safeguard the local chicken farmers. But we may get an infected chicken from outside. So the best way is to keep the tradition of having live chickens for the dining table. Indeed, there are citizens who prefer this. But at the same time, we want to remove the risk. On my part, for our own standards, our quality assurance, and the Hong Kong government, I have absolute faith. Up to now, we haven't found anything wrong with the local chickens supplied to the local market. So it is worth our total trust. I think the solution lies with the banning of imported chickens. In other words, the local people will control the quality. In this way, it means that we don't rule out having a large market on the mainland. The same goes for formula milk. Maybe in future, the mainlanders would like to import live chickens from Hong Kong. It will become a major industry. We are talking about primary industries, secondary industries. Now we cannot build housing in the new territories, and so Stephen, Deputy Chair, I think you would agree with me that we should promote local farming. So why don't we have quality farming? Organic vegetables, organic fish, all of them can fetch a good price. Local people also want to have this kind of quality food, and the mainlanders will provide market to us. Instead of spending $100 million on supporting the importers of mainland chicken, I think rather than doing that, I think it's better to help our local farmers so that they can tap into the mainland market. So what is hindering us? I cannot understand. Perhaps As pointed out in some silent stories in the press, we have certain provisions in the WTO's government purchase agreements. I think for 16 years we have been looking into that. Does it mean that we have yet to come to a conclusion as to whether that would breach the WTO rules? I think the direction is clear. It will be a win-win situation. No one would lose out. So why aren't we doing it? Secretary, for Mr. Tian's proposal, well, on different occasions, I did come across this idea. You mentioned other considerations. They are secondary. The main concern is, as I have said, avian influenza is a worldwide problem. From time to time, we have heard about the culling exercise of 10,000 poultry in this country or that, and then we are told about the latest virus. And then there's H5N9 in the country, and then earlier on in some European countries, tens of thousands of poultry were culled because of a different kind of AI virus. If you talk about being advanced, yes, indeed, you are right to talk about the case of Hong Kong. As far as supply of live poultry is concerned, our risk control system is strict. Dr. Koh, I'm afraid to stop you because we need to give the floor to another member. Dr. K.K. Kwok, we should have known 2 months ago at the local level and on the mainland, one after another, AI cases were exposed involving human beings and chickens. Time and again, we have asked the administration to stop the importation of mainland live chickens into Hong Kong, but time and again, we have been refused. I think what we see today should have been foreseen 1 or 2 months ago. The most innocent victims are the local chicken traders and the chicken farmers and their employees. Madam Chair, what is most resentful is that the CE talked about this and he's rubbing salt into the wound of the chicken farmers. He said that we have to rethink. Perhaps he was implying that they should just close their business. I've seen for the 10 years or so in the past, many people have been working hard to make sure that we can have a sustainable type of farming as part of our economic activities. I think it is important. I don't know how we are changing our policies. In the policy address, the CE is still talking about giving support to the development of sustainable fisheries and sustainable farming in Hong Kong. So he's contradicting himself. Now, in fact, this could have been prevented, but the government hasn't done so. So my question is, thinking back in the beginning, you had insisted on not banning the importation of live chickens. Do you think that you were wrong then? Well, what is worse is that we found it difficult to be accountable to those who have been working hard in the retail industry. They should not have been implicated. They should not have been involved. And now we see that on the mainland, we have already seen an outbreak among human beings and poultry. I think that should have been a justification for us to play safe and suspend the importation of live chickens from the mainland. From the figures, we have seen that the number of local birds would have been sufficient to meet the demand in the market, and we have already a stock of 1.1 million, and from the mainland we have less than 8,000 a day.
So for live chicken from the mainland, we have to look at the sufficiency of supply and whether the risk is very high. If risk is high and there is a sufficient supply, why are you still insisting on this, Secretary? Madam Chair, I strongly agree. The live poultry sector has suffered huge losses, and that is something we do not want to see. But I believe that many people have also pointed out that this incident will lead to losses of the local poultry sector. And in the past decade or so, we have set up this stringent quarantine system. One arrangement, which is very important, is to concentrate the poultry in the wholesale market so that AFCD and FHD staff can have a concentrated manner of inspection. If we don't have concentrated inspection, when poultry leave chicken farms and reach various destinations, it is very difficult for us to have a better grasp of the number of chicken involved and where they are going. That is why we need to place the poultry at the same place. And I agree. Perhaps this is exactly why the poultry sector have to face this huge blow. It is not their fault. After meeting with the industry and the stakeholders, we have to find a way to avoid this, to prevent this from happening. And when did we decide on the cessation of supply of live chicken from the mainland to Hong Kong? We have a mechanism of risk assessment and other factors. So we already have this established system and we have to follow this. Okay, I have to put a stop to you. I have to remind members 5 minutes, including question and answer. So please save some time for the administration. Ms. Ellen Leung and then Ms. Ho. Thank you. The Civic Party in the mainland, when there was a first round of outbreak of H7 avian flu, we already publicly asked the government to stop importation of live chicken from the mainland. At the time, the government did not listen to our request. So I think the Secretary should respond to what he thinks about this now. Looking back, perhaps he should have stopped the importation of live poultry from the mainland earlier on. Secondly, the Secretary said that in different occasions, he has heard the voice that we need to nurture the agricultural and fishery sectors in Hong Kong. We're talking about local quality and sustainable development of the agricultural and fishing industries. So the Secretary said perhaps we need to stamp out all the live chicken. Perhaps this is the right time to discuss it. And I would like to ask the Secretary, what are the difficulties if we really try to nurture a local live poultry industry so that local people can enjoy live chicken? 2 questions. Secretary? To nurture a local live poultry sector and be self-sufficient, I have heard about this many times. But, as I have said, around the world, every 1 to 2 months, we would hear about an outbreak of avian flu. And when avian flu does break out, there are 2 ways. There are poultry affecting human beings, and such cases are mainly found in places like Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, and mainland. When we have the open-style chicken farming practices allowing direct contact between poultry and humans. And that, of course, includes some free-range chicken. If you look at advanced countries with no live chicken, perhaps they use a factory to keep all the chicken. Does that mean that they are free from avian flu? No. Occasionally, some chicken farms in Europe or even South Korea, different types of avian flu would still break out, and tens of thousands or even more chicken will be killed each time. So the story is telling us we have to do our best in terms of risk prevention and ensure biosecurity, but there is no such thing as zero risk. And this brings us to the next issue. Can we develop a sustainable poultry industry in Hong Kong? We have more than 1 million live poultry coming into Hong Kong every day. Perhaps we can increase the supply if needed. But there are some newborn chicks coming into Hong Kong as well. And the zero risk idea is again impossible. So when there's something wrong with the newborn chicks or day-old chicks, perhaps we need to cull all the chicken in the farm. So when the chicks are killed, how do we purchase chicken? So for Hong Kong, such a small city, to be fully sufficient and to have zero risk, I don't think that is likely at all. The Chief Secretary talked about this yesterday. For some reasons, we are not deciding on a direction. We have a question for you to ponder on. If we are to maintain this tradition of eating live chicken, we have to pay a price. And the price is chicken farmers will have to invest and the government will have to spend money, and every now and then something will go wrong. And we have to put a hold on the operations and there will be losses. Is this something we want to face? Every time, people feel very upset. Next, Mr. Ho, and then myself. As the Secretary has said, avian flu cannot be stamped out 100%. I agree. It is like human influenza. You could be very healthy, but sometimes you will come down with the flu. So if something goes wrong with individual chicken farms and you have to do the culling, chicken farms will have nothing to say. But this time, local chicken farmers have done everything they can, all the measures and the quarantine, but because of the wholesale system, the local poultry and imported poultry from the mainland have not been separated. So we need to put a hold for 21 days, the operation of the Changsha Wan market. What about the local chicken that has not been infected? Secretary, are you going to visit the chicken farms to do the test to ensure a certain batch is safe? Can you do that? Can you consider that? Concerning the wholesale system, all the poultry will be gathered at the same place to do the test. But Hong Kong is not facing this problem. You have to minimize the losses incurred to the local chicken farmers. Can you think about other wholesale systems or even direct sale system? If there's something wrong with the system, you have to offer compensation to the local chicken farmers. I seldom support compensations because I feel that if you compensate people, you do not encourage them to develop. People will become reliant on the compensation. But indeed, this time, local chicken farmers haven't done anything wrong. It is because of the design of the wholesale system that has gone wrong, and they are suffering from losses. You have to compensate. Or within 21 days, you have to go to the local farms and then do some tests at source and set up another direct sale system so that they can continue their business. Secretary, the first point mentioned by Ms. Ho, we actually agree. We have this wholesale and quarantine system for a reason. As I have already explained, we have this concentrated wholesale market. But there is a negative impact we have to do tests, and when we're waiting for the results, the two batches of chicken become located in the same place. When a sample is positive, that whole place becomes an outbreak point or pandemic point, and we have to stop the operation of that affected area for 21 days. So we are looking into some arrangements so that we can separate the two batches of poultry. And Ms. Ho also said that correctly, it is true that the local farmers haven't done anything wrong because the sample tested positive came from the mainland. And I have heard same request from the local farmers. We have to do an assessment and then decide. Do you agree to compensation in principle? Or today I am not allowed to make that decision. That is not acceptable. Ask all the members. See how many agree that in principle the government needs to compensate. When it comes to actual level of compensation, yes, we can agree to further assessment. Perhaps in a minute, other members can express their views on this as well. Now it's my turn. Secretary, I have said it this time and again. Stop the supply of live poultry from the mainland because of this policy loophole. Or there are a few loopholes actually. First of all, the chicken farms providing supply of poultry to Hong Kong, you said that they are independent from other chicken farms in the mainland, but something is going wrong with the poultry coming from them. You will say, oh yes, there will be tests before they leave mainland, and there will be another round of tests at Mankamto, but now one chicken is affecting 200,000 poultry in Hong Kong. They all have to die because of that one chicken. It's because of the lack of a streaming system. We know this is the highest risk period. So I urge the Secretary to seriously consider putting a permanent cessation of supply of live chicken from the mainland. If you don't do that decision, all the local farmers will have to suffer because you cannot, up to 100%, ensure that in 21 days, when more poultry are coming in from the mainland, there wouldn't be any sick chicken. We only have 21 days. Secretary already said you want to do the streaming. But can you find another place within 21 days to house the mainland chicken? If you cannot find that in 21 days, what will happen in 21 days? So 7,000, 8,000 live chicken will come in to Hong Kong and they will be gathered in Cheung Sha Wan again. Can you respond to that first? Ms. Wong, the mechanism could be very stringent, as I have already explained. There could never be zero risk, and that is why along the supply chain we have certain safety measures, and then we add many hurdles to conduct the tests. It shows that we are doing the PRC test because it is necessary. All along, I've believed that this supply chain is not perfect. That's why I have added the PRC test. Secondly, the source of infection we already know that came from a certain batch and where that batch came from. But the mainland quarantine and testing authority is still conducting the tests. They have taken 200 samples from the same place and no positive results. So we are still looking for the source. And I don't want to preset anything.
Secretary,
Even if we can't guarantee that there would be zero risk when it comes to live chickens, but then I think you can make a judgment, that is risk assessment or the risk assessed about the imported mainland chickens must be higher than that of local chickens. Now, for AFCD officials, they can visit local chicken farms. For the mainland farms, they are all over the country, and then sometimes you can't really make any decision. They don't follow your orders. So can you not convince us with a better reason? According to the press, it is said that you're worried about 2 points. First of all, continuous supply. Second, fair trading. I have heard from the local farmers that they don't find any problem in relation to continuous supply. For fair trading, I don't think it is a justification. For the Center of Food Safety, for food safety's reason, for risk control reasons, and for infection reasons, you can stop the importation of food from any place. So this argument just doesn't hold. Now you've already banned food from a few prefectures in Japan under the risk of nuclear radiation. So why can't you apply the same? In relation to the idea to have a suspension, yes, indeed, the CFS does have the power to take action against a particular place when there is a concern about the food safety. I hope you have the chance to continue with your answer later on. I myself am quite poor about time management. Stephen Ho, I think you know about the pressure that we local farmers have. 21 days, we don't know what will happen in between, and after 21 days, we don't know whether you will still be cold storing both the imported chickens and the local chickens at Cheung Sha even before the test results are available. I think we've asked all the questions yesterday at the meeting with you. I know the administration is going to make an assessment about the compensation, but then we want to make it clear. Local farmers don't want to see that they have to receive compensation. They want to be self-reliant. We hope that we can dispatch the chickens to the market so that we can share the fruits of our work with the citizens. It is only when everything fails then we will turn to compensation. So we won't press the government to do this. But what about the assessment? When can it be completed? I also agree with other members at this stage for the administration to ask us to rethink whether we want to keep the tradition of live chickens at this stage. I think it is premature and you're putting pressure on us. We are not yet able to resolve the imminent problems, and yet you ask us to think about the long term. It is most inappropriate. I can understand that for the CE and the SFH, when they try to handle the issue, they appear to be very rational, but I hope that you can take care of the sentiments of us and deal with the immediate problems first. And then for the 21-day suspension period, yesterday I think the administration told us that you noted our concern, that is, we don't want to cold store the chickens from both sources before the test results are out. Do you have any idea as to where to store them separately? Thank you. Well, the industry has sent a very clear message. That is, they hope that we can have a second wholesale poultry market to separate the two sources of chickens. I've already said that I have reservation. In 2008, there was the second round of surrender of licenses. The last term government agreed that we should maintain the existing mechanism. That is, the local industry has already scaled down, and then at the retail level, as well as the supply chain has also scaled down. And then we have the risk control mechanism. We believe that we can control the risk at a low level At that time, the overriding principle was that retail, farms, and everything else in the supply chain will no longer be expanded. So if we start to look for a site for a second wholesale poultry market, it is sort of going back on our words and going backwards. But I agree that while we are waiting for the test results, we should try not to co-store both imported chickens and local chickens. But it is no easy matter. Well, the industry has asked for the local chickens, for the imported chickens to be kept at Mankamto for another 3 or 4 hours. I don't think the current setup can facilitate this arrangement. There will be biosecurity risks. Whether you do it at Mankamto or elsewhere, it involves site selection as well as the support facilities. So I don't think we can sort of introduce a new mechanism in 21 days. At the end of the 21 days, and please also allow me a chance to comment on the point made earlier on by members, that is, can we not sort of suspend the supply for more than 21 days. I don't think it's right for us to compare this incident with the radiation risk from Japan, because for nuclear radiation is for the long term. Whenever we have something which is of a high risk, we can suspend the importation, but we do specify period, and when the risk has been removed, then we have to remove the suspension, and we treat everybody equally, including other countries in Europe. So we have to resume the importation when things are fine again. Alice Mack, a number of points here. I agree with members who have said that we shouldn't be talking about terminating the tradition of live chicken because we have to solve the problem of livelihood of the chicken farmers. A month or 2 ago, chicken farmers and traders have anticipated the Lunar New Year period. They have already increased their stock of chickens for the sale for Chinese New Year. I think we should try to find ways to deal with this stock. If you can't resolve the problem of livelihood in 21 days, then you have to go back to the issue of compensation. This is because 3 or 4 months ago, they have already anticipated bumper sales this period. Of course, we cannot predict an outbreak, but we mustn't forget the hardship suffered by the local farmers. As to the facilities at Mankamto and whether we should have a second wholesale market, it is all a matter of the hardware, and they can be overcome given time and resources and the will from the administration. On the other hand, if the administration, well, in fact, it is a very clear case here. We have got the mainland imported chickens affecting the local chickens. Maybe you can't get an answer within the 21-day period, but after the 21-day period, perhaps you can have another wholesale market, so that when we have H5N1 virus in the imported chickens, local farmers will not be affected, so that they won't have to face the suspension of trading. SFH. If we ban importation of mainland chickens in the long term, just allowing the supply of local chickens only, I want to know whether there is any law to forbid this idea. Secretary, Ms. Mack said whether it is the right time to suggest the change of tradition, that is, whether we should still have live chickens. Yes, indeed, it is for the long term, but we are saying this, not that we want to have it done overnight, but then we believe that when we're faced with this problem, then you know why we ask this question. when the days are fine, then you may wonder why we are making such a proposal. I agree that it is not urgent. We have other more urgent things to deal with. I met with the industry representatives yesterday. They clearly sent the message to me that they would like to be given assistance. First of all, we need to carry out an assessment. Later on, as to the future development, now Ms. Mack has once again suggested the setting up of a second wholesale market. Let me say this again, we have reservation. Now, if we can have a mechanism to keep the two sources of chickens separate while awaiting for test results, then we won't have what we just had. Now, they were co-stocked at Changsha 1, and so we have no choice. We have to declare Changsha 1 temporary wholesale market as an infected area. Had they not been kept together at Changsha 1, and when the test results are known, say for example they are kept elsewhere at Mankamto, then Changsha 1 wholesale market would not be declared as an infected area, and then we can solve the problem that you referred to, Ms. Mack. In the longer term, I think it isn't so much a legal issue. Rather, I have to take up the matter with the industry. That is, if we have only got a local supply, I want to know whether it is going to work in the long term. Yesterday, I've already started to raise this point with the local farmers, and they are willing to explore the feasibility. So we need to ask the question, and then we have to find out whether we can be self-sufficient in the long term, whether it is going to be sustainable as a mode. I'm sure I will talk to the industry again. Now, Ms. Sid Ho and Mr. Alan Leung are moving a motion, and this is related to the topic of our discussion. So, members, do you agree that later on we should handle the motion? Any objection? Madam Chair, yes, I agree for the motion to be moved, but I would like to seek an amendment. All right, I'll give the floor to members to ask questions, and then we will deal with the motion. If any member would like to propose an amendment, please write a wording for us. Now, let's come back to the paper. I don't think we have time for a second round of questions, so please make good use of your 5 minutes for both Q&A, and then we should leave behind 10 minutes or so, or 15 minutes, to deal with the motion. Next, Chen Hangbang. We are suspending the chicken trading for 21 days. Local farmers are unfortunate because they're implicated. I think you are pouring cold water on us, and it is unfair to the local chicken farmers. Stephen Ho and previously with Mr. Wong Yong Ken, we have always been advocating the separation of imported mainland live chickens and local live chickens. I think whenever we met with Dr. Cole, we have been repeating our recommendation. But it appears that the Bureau hasn't come back with any specific response. I want to know whether the Bureau has been too slow in reacting to this matter. Banning the importation of mainland live chickens. I want to know whether it is going to be a policy in the long term, and whether it should be a policy for the long term, and whether we should stop trading of live poultry in the market. Perhaps there would be some citizens who would agree to such a recommendation, but I would suggest that we shouldn't come to a conclusion hastily. Now, we have a serious overstocking of chickens locally. From the perspective of biosecurity measures, by having such a large stock of local chickens, the risk is high. So how are you going to deal with the remaining 200,000 chickens? How are you going to help the local farmers to overcome the difficulties in the interim?
點。
Some people suggest that Changsha 1 is the affected place, and you have banned the trading there for 21 days. What about other local chicken sellers? Perhaps they can just sell their poultry directly. Is that feasible, Secretary? Thank you. Concerning streaming of poultry, Ms. Chen is bringing that up again, so perhaps I can say this one more time. The FHD and AAFCD are already considering the possible ways not to set up another wholesale market, but effectively stream 2 batches of chicken while we're waiting for the test results. We have already started that work. And I agree that we should not hastily decide that we should stop all the supply of live poultry from the mainland. Once the sale of chicken is resumed, we will talk to the stakeholders again and collect more views from the community before we decide. Concerning holding up poultry, all the registered chicken farms are allowed. They're keeping a number of poultry according to the limit we have imposed. So in theory, if they do not sell the chicken within a certain period of time, the cap would not be exceeded. So the problem you mentioned would not appear. But for individual chicken farms, whether there is average allocation of number of chicken, whether there will be overcrowding in some of the chicken farms, we will conduct more frequent inspections to see if this is happening. But the total cap should not be exceeded. How do we offer help to the trade? As I've mentioned, the trade has presented a request to us, concessionary arrangement and direct sale of chicken. As Ms. Ho has said, they would like to find a way to sell the chicken so that they don't suffer such huge losses. But if that's not possible, we should have some compassionate discretionary arrangement. We will do an assessment if that is the case, but direct sales of chicken, it is not up to me to decide. We have set up this quarantine system. According to the law, you cannot sell chicken directly from the farm to another selling point. So within the framework of the law, that is not possible. Time's up. Next, Mr. Fang Gang and then Chen Shishun. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to say that I support the motion. And at this time, if we talk about the cessation of supply of live chicken from the mainland, or never have live chicken again in Hong Kong, I don't think it is the time to discuss these things. They can be postponed. We have to address the most pressing issue. I have been dealing with this chicken issue since the day I joined Legislative Council. It is good to have a stringent quarantine system, but it seems that we are now looking at a good system, but people are not following this system. We obviously see that this PRC test is very important, but this time the government has not used the result of the test in a wise way. If the test result is positive, you should be very alert and do something immediately. Of course, it's easy to say looking back. I think a transshipment point or transition point should be identified. If something is wrong, you should place that batch of poultry at a certain location before they are allowed into the Changsha 1 site. I have a few questions for the Secretary. When you realized that test results were positive from a certain vehicle bringing in the poultry, have you stepped up sampling and testing for samples from other vehicles? Or do you allow other vehicles to continue to go into the site? Have you conducted further tests? What about the source? It is very important to monitor the source, but we have seen from TV last night the hygiene condition of chicken farms is very poor. So, Secretary, concerning these chicken farms as the source, when do you actually send people to inspect the premises? If the farms are dirty, of course, this would happen. I support the motion, but I do not support the term compassionate arrangement because there's something wrong with the operation of the government. It is your job to compensate the chicken farmers. The government has done something wrong, and therefore it has to compensate. It is not on compassionate grounds. So Mr. Fang is saying that it is not necessary to discuss today what will happen to live chicken in the future. Allow me to stress this one more time. We raised this as an issue for a reason. It allows us to more easily understand what the problem is. But we agree it is not the most pressing issue. If the PRC test is positive, I can tell you what actually happens at 8:30, around 8:30 in the morning. We confirmed the test result. All the live poultry coming into Hong Kong at Mercantile, well, the design at Mercantile is not for waiting. It is for coming in to Hong Kong. We're talking about a flow of products. So we only have half an hour to take a sample. And then they reached the Changsha 1 site and they had to wait for the results. So by the time the results came out, they were already at the site. It's not that once they have been tested positive, we still decided to send them to Changsha 1. So when it comes to the chicken farms, as the source, according to the quarantine department's report from the mainland, so far, the source of poultry samples, Chen Shixun, and then Wu Shiwei. Madam Chair, the Secretary has provided this paper. The last sentence says that the government is going to commission a consultancy firm to see if we should have sales of live chicken in the long term. Please save your time and money, Secretary. Don't do that. If you have money, please compensate to the chicken farmers. This question is wrong. The timing's wrong. The direction is also wrong. If we look at policy direction, we shouldn't be talking about this at all. Actually, this is not a problem. It is about the policy direction, and Leung Chanying also said something. He said today is time to review if we really need to have live chicken. The cost is so high. Some other members also asked about the agricultural policies on providing outstanding agricultural products produced locally. So let's forget about having chicken farms. We could be injecting a lot of money to help them, and then when there's avian flu, everything will go down the toilet. So the risk is there. So we are not going to do it. Today, the problem is local chicken farmers have good self-discipline. They have done a lot. They have done very well. It is not something we can place on their shoulders. So let's also forget about the agricultural policy. Is this fair? Well, live chicken is not a necessity. Chicken's not a necessity. We can just stop eating chicken altogether if you want. But for the longer term, according to this paper, should we have the sales of live chicken? So you are jumping ahead of time. For the interim, should we continue to import live poultry from the mainland? I will allow you enough time to respond. Shouldn't we put a hold on supply of live chicken from the mainland? Many people have asked this, and many people actually support this. So, Secretary, tell us, what is your process of consideration? What are the major hurdles? Can you overcome them? Is there political pressure? Secretary. In terms of agricultural policy, we are indeed planning something to have a review. Later on, we're going to launch something for consultation. But of course, we're talking about different segments involved. And the policy focuses on farming. When it comes to animal farming or poultry farming, it is a totally different segment. If we are talking about something very extreme, like husbandry, cattle farming, sheep farming, and pig farming, Hong Kong has very limited land, so poultry farming is there in the middle. The problem is there is the risk of avian flu. So coming back to my point, because of avian flu, we do a lot of risk management. And in the chicken farms, we have enclosures, we have biosecurity measures, and all these are necessary. I agree with that. But according to many examples I have given, even in very advanced countries, using the latest technologies, the safest ways to have poultry, every now and then they still face avian flu outbreak and they have to cope. Please spend the time on cessation of supply of live poultry from the mainland and political considerations. Well, you have talked about interim measures and long-term measures. For the interim, actually, we're still talking about the long-term issue. The local chicken farming industry in the longer term, is that sustainable? We will continue to explore that. And this is not a problem just targeting mainland China, but there are standards and procedures around the world. When there is an avian flu outbreak, we will consider the risk level and then we will put a stop to the supply for a certain period of time. And then according to the remedy measures, we will resume the importation. So we're not just singling out mainland China, it's applying to every other country. Mr. Hu Shuai, Lam Mei Fan, Wang Yokman, Wang Kwok Heng. We have to deal with a motion, and I received 2 amendments. The problem is we only have this room until 12:15. In order to deal with the motions and the amendments, Tommy Zhang also raised his hand. He would like to ask a question as well. I'm sorry, you only have 3 minutes. Otherwise, we don't have time to deal with the motions. We simply don't have time. So please, the next time you should show up earlier. Until 12:15, Hu Shuwei, and then Lam Mei Fan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 parts here. Well, many members have already spoken that the local chicken farmers are innocent victims. But then the chicken traders in the markets are also suffering huge losses. But I haven't heard anything from the administration concerning the arrangements for the chicken traders in the market. Do you have any arrangements for them? And then the administration has said that it is going to consider the separation of the two sources of chickens, but then we have already stocked up a lot of chickens in the farms. I've been trying to follow the conversation. Now, local farmers would like to dispatch their chickens directly to the retail points, but then of course there would be the security concern. Is it possible to do something about it so that the chickens of the local farmers can be sent directly to the traders, so that we can continue with the supply and trading of live chickens in Hong Kong? I think by allowing this, it means that we can cut down on the public expenditure, and we can assure that there will be a continuous supply of live chickens. Please tell us why you think that is not feasible. Now, Mr. Wu would like to ask a question concerning details. Maybe we should ask the FCD to tell you about the legal requirements concerning quarantine. Dr. Leung, currently our arrangements are as follows. We need to control the risk. We have to manage the risk. So we have been following the statutory requirements and the licensing conditions, so that all live local chickens must be dispatched to Changchao 1, and that's the only place, because we want to make sure that chickens dispatched from farms are the same as those sent to the retail outlets. We want to know whether the numbers match, and we can sort of oversee the changing of the cages, or transferring the chickens from one cage to another. We're trying to see if there are other alternatives, so that we can be equally assured of the risk control while facilitating the dispatch of chickens by the farmers. We still have to consider the proposals. That's for the longer term. For the shorter term, I think even if we can think of anything as an alternative, we still have to consult the stakeholders, and then we have to think about the facilities needed. We are giving thoughts to it, but I don't think we can do anything within a short period of time. I don't think you can expect an answer in the next day or two. Madam Chair, the administration is being positive here. That is, whether this recommendation is feasible. We want to say that if it is feasible within the current legal setup, and if it can meet the risk control requirements, we are willing to consider it. What about covering the traders in the market? Time is up. 5 minutes. No, 4 minutes. Why 3 minutes for me? 5 minutes. Earlier on I've said that it's 5 minutes. There will be new arrangements later on. I met with the chicken farmers yesterday, as well as other people in the supply chain, the retailers, wholesalers, and the transportation workers. They have all asked for compassionate treatment. So our assessment won't be confined to the farmers and see whether they have suffered any loss. In fact, we will cover everybody in the supply chain. Now, we have got 3 amendments to be proposed to the motion. Priscilla Leung, Raymond Wong, Wong Kwok Hing, Tommy Cheung are in the queue waiting to ask questions. So perhaps we have to make a decision. Other than Tommy Cheung, who came late, and we have said that we would give him 3 minutes. Priscilla, Wong Kwok Hing, and Raymond Wong, are you willing to cut short your time slot? This is a special meeting. The next meeting will start at 12:15. You asked the other members whether they were willing. I'm now consulting. Let's try our best. We should save time. You can ask everybody to be precise. You say that I've come late. Why? You say that I come late. It's a special meeting. I can't just leave behind everything and come here to. I think you need to exercise your powers in a fair way. You can't say that I come late and so I've only got 3 minutes. I may as well not say anything. I can speak my mind on another occasion. I'm now consulting the views of other members. We must hand over the venue at 12:15. We have got 3 members on the list, and there is a 4th amendment. Now, if we want to deal with the amendments, I'm consulting your views. Do you agree that for members who haven't spoken, they should be given a shorter time slot? Otherwise, we can't deal with all the amendments. Maybe I can also submit an amendment. I think there's something wrong with your time management. You can't say that anybody speaking further down the list should get less time to speak. We raise our hands. Maybe you couldn't see our hand. Now you say that Tommy came late and so he should have 1 minute late. Of course. No. You are the chair. Perhaps you should refrain from speaking so that you leave time for others to speak. I'm now consulting the views of members. If members have got very strong views, then I will just maintain the original arrangements. Ask the DP to tell you how to be a chair. Priscilla Leung. Permanent ban on importation, permanent ban on the trading of live chickens. I don't think anybody can say that it should be permanent. It will be difficult to do it. 21 days. I think 21 days being a convention. You know that we are very anxious about everything, all sorts of things, including health. Perhaps we should suspend the importation until we agree that it is safe to resume it. Another point is that today I very much want to say that for the Chengsha temporary wholesale market, it has been temporary for many decades. We have 400,000 people living around it. Even before the outbreak of avian influenza, many citizens have been asking us to air their strong views on their behalf. That is, they would very much like the Chengsha temporary wholesale market to be relocated so that it can be located far away from their homes. Please find a suitable location so that they don't need to worry. In June 2010, we asked C.Y. Leung to go to the waterfront, and we hope that the Chengsha temporary wholesale market can be relocated to a waterfront site. Now, Chengsha has been declared as an infected area. Indeed, it is worrying. I also agree that for the chicken farmers and the chicken traders, they should be given compensation. We have natural disasters and we have also got human-caused disasters. No one wants to see an outbreak of avian influenza. There is also this question of lack of sufficient controls. We haven't got a system to compensate for victims from human-caused disasters. When there was the tsunami tragedy, I found that if you are not suffering from natural disasters, you are not entitled to any compensation or assistance. So do you think that you need to do something about it? Now, for the Chengsha temporary wholesale market and its relocation, our view is that we maintain the same view. It is temporary in nature. All along, we have been finding a suitable location. I hope you will be understanding. It won't be easy for us to find a site for the relocation. Local residents do not want to have a facility which involves quarantine. So even if we are able to find a site elsewhere, we will meet with the same local reaction. And we have to look at the other factors, like we have to carry out a traffic impact assessment, among others. Temporary for 40 years, and we have got 400,000 people living there. It's a densely populated area. It is not a suitable site. In the beginning, no one was living in that vicinity. Yes, I understand. It's impossible for us to find a site to relocate it. Do it by involving other bureaus. Yes, we've been doing it. Let's not talk about that. Now, yesterday, I met with the industry. The industry told me clearly whether we are talking about the farmers or the other parts of the supply chain. They have already asked for compensation. But first of all, we need to have an assessment, and we'll do it ASAP. So if you ask me to name a figure about the compensation, it's impossible. I hope the Secretary would understand that for the 400,000 residents in Central Pool, they would really want to see the relocation of the wholesale market. Yes, when we went to the district, we heard this aspiration. We fully understand it. Raymond Wong, 5 minutes. Separating the chickens, you have said that it's impossible. Banning the importation of mainland live chickens to Hong Kong, again you've said no. Now you say that you will get a consultant to see whether we should ban the trading of live chickens. You say that that's a subject for consultation. We can see that there's resentment on the part of the citizens and anger on the part of the traders and the farmers. Now you've always been relying on the same tactic, that is we should ban it, and then you say that we must have a sense of crisis. You are trying to explain Xi's comment. Who chose of all times he has chosen this moment to say that we should ban live chickens. I think Sich Tong also made a similar comment. Now, for the testing standards, I'm sure they are higher than those in the mainland. But you don't want to raise the coefficient of safety. You don't want to separate the two kinds of chickens. I think ultimately it boils down to lack of land. I think as a result of this incident, you really have to give it serious consideration. Even if it is difficult, you must find land to separate the two sources of chickens. Well, they have already confirmed 200 cases of AI, and dozens of patients have died. Are you still not afraid? Now, when there is a positive test result, you say that there should be a culling. Now, in fact, farmers are angry. Citizens are angry, and then you use the term culling. Culling is not really the right word, especially in Chinese. You use pork shan. It's very resentful. It is very cruel. You would use this term only if you want to imply a sense of violence. You kill the chickens. You kill the chickens for the sake of human safety. Now you are culling the chickens. Maybe one day we'll cull us as well. I have time for others to speak. I don't need the Secretary to give an answer.
Wong Kok Heng and then Tommy Chung. Madam Chair, actually, I would like to quote something from ancient Chinese to describe this situation. You do not get 3 feet of ice after one freezing evening. This incident is telling us that having Changsha 1 market as the single site dealing with local and imported poultry is the key of the issue. Everything is bound together, causing this incident. Madam Chair, according to my colleagues at the office who have done some survey beginning from 1997 and 2011, in the 14-year period, poultry coming from the mainland, there's been 2 rounds of culling. 2.5 million poultry have been killed. If we're talking about the virus found in local poultry leading to culling, 7 rounds. 1.03 million live chicken were killed. So added together, we're talking about 3.392 million live chicken killed. Indeed, this is very cruel. We're talking about more than 3 million lives wasted. This is why I believe that when the government deals with supply of chicken, there should be some new thinking. You need to listen to the trade. You need to listen to us. The problem is not about whether we should have live chicken. The problem is that the government has all along been very passive in dealing with the local farmers. Some years ago, you even talked about scrapping AFCD. You never had a real agriculture policy. So again, 3 feet of ice is not caused by one freezing evening. The Urban Council has been removed because of the chicken issue, and today you're making a mistake that is even bigger. You don't need to respond. I would like to use my time to read out my amendment. Because of the lack of streaming of poultry coming from local farms and mainland farms, local chicken have been infected by avian flu, and local chicken farmers suffer from losses. They have not committed any mistakes. This panel believes that the administration needs to immediately work on streaming live chicken from local farms so that they can be sold separately, and support local farmers and the local industry, and because of this incident, offer compensation to the local farmers. That is my amendment. I urge the government to listen to us instead of wasting time to commission any consultants. You have more than 1 minute to respond. Secretary. Madam Chair, I actually agree with part of what you said. Poultry coming from 2 places, waiting for the report in the same site is not satisfactory, and that is why we have already started a study. I have heard from the trade and different members this is a very strong demand, and this is worth exploring. So I agree with this. What I don't agree with is to expand further the local supply chain, because years ago we contracted the local trade together with the preventive measures and risk control measures. We would be able to contain the risk to a low level. Thank you, Secretary, for agreeing with the direction. There's a little bit of time left. I hope that the Secretary would do something about the local poultry that cannot be sold in the market. This is a huge issue. Can you consider independent sales of such poultry after the PCR test? Okay, your time is up. Mr. Tommy Chung. I'll try to be as fast as possible. I want to thank Mr. Wang Yongman for giving me extra time. And secondly, I agree with what Mr. Chen Shih-chun has said. Save your breath, Secretary. Don't waste your time on that centralized slaughtering study. I believe members of the public and the trade have told you very clearly. Perhaps the CE doesn't know about this, but actually this is part of the local eating culture. We need live chicken. When I brought the trade to meet with you, we talked about the Changsha-Wan streaming measure. You agree, and I'm glad. As the trade has said, even if we just look at Changsha-Wan, there are sites A, B, and C, so perhaps you can do streaming inside the Changsha-Wan premises. And there's no need to transport and place local poultry and imported poultry in the same sites. For example, sites A and B can be dedicated for imported poultry. You don't need to reply because we have already talked about this yesterday and you said there would be a study. Thirdly, if in 1 to 2 years' time or in 3 months you come back to us and tell us you cannot come up with any good ideas, and what happened today may happen again in the future because there will continuously be supply of live poultry from the mainland, affecting the local poultry. Retailers asked me to ask you, can they return the license to you? Can you just have a very brief response on that? And very quickly, I would like to go through my amendment proposed together with Mr. Fang Gang. On top of Mr. Ho and Mr. Alan Leung's motion, we're just adding a little bit. Compensation should be offered to local farmers and wholesalers and retailers and all the related parties. Because the people who are to suffer include not just chicken farmers. Wholesalers and retailers would have no business to do. So, Madam Chair, I don't want to teach you how to do a chairman's work. I can see that perhaps the amendments from myself and from Mr. Ho can be combined together with the one from Wong Kwok Heng. Well, I cannot tell you yes or no today, but I am inclined towards the fact that if the licenses are to be surrendered, that will be part of a scheme. It is not going to be done separately because people will be affected. If we want to retain the supply chain in Hong Kong, we will need sufficient number of chicken farms or a suitable number of chicken farms, not too many, not too few, and then also a suitable number of retail points. If we don't have any long-term decision and then on the interim offer something on a voluntary basis, I'm just worried that we will be stuck in the middle. All right, we will talk about that later on. No more questions. There are 3 amendments and the original motion and a separate motion. Mr. Wong, Mr. Shou, Mr. Fang already explained on their motions. The amendment from Hygiene, we have to deal with that first, and then deal with Wong Kwok Heng and Chan Min-shou, Fang Gang, and then Leung Mei-fan's motion. Amendment from Hygiene, because of the imperfections of the flow of supply chain for live poultry, local poultry have been placed together with mainland live poultry, causing infection of the local poultry. And the administration should expeditiously make improvements to the supply system and provide suitable support. So this is an amendment to the original motion submitted by Mr. Ho and Mr. Alan Leung. So let's put this one to the vote. For those who support, please raise your hand. Can we vote on all 3 because there is no conflict? Ms. Ho? The 3 amendments, I welcome all of them because you are just adding some information and also explaining why there's a problem with the lack of streaming. So I and Mr. Leung will support all 3 amendments as long as we're telling the government not to do assessment. 20,000 have already been killed. You have to compensate. Mr. Leung? Madam Chair, this is what I propose. I agree with Ms. Sit-ho. I think unless people moving amendments would like to have a separate voting, or they want to retain the right of not attaching the amendment to other motions, perhaps we can just vote on our motion, which has been amended by Tommy Zhang, Fang Gong, Wong Kok Heng, and Mr. Ho. Do we agree? I support that because there is no conflict. Anyone who objects to this arrangement, we will deal with Ms. Leung Mei-Fan's motion separately. No objection? So the motion moved by Sit-ho and Alan Leung, as amended by Tommy Cheung, Fang Gong, Wong Kok Heng, and Ho Chun-yin, will now put this to the vote. For those who support, please raise your hands. Any objections? No. The amended motion is endorsed. We will now deal with the motion submitted by Leung Mei-Fan. This panel urged the administration to address the strong demand of the residents near the Changsha Wan poultry market and expeditiously identify another site and relocate the market to make sure it's far away from the residents to ensure people's safety. For those who support, please raise your hands. 5. Objections? Anyone abstaining? 1. So this is also endorsed. So we will conclude today's meeting. I am sure you have many more questions, and we want to thank the administration for attending today's meeting. Please do update us whenever necessary. I also want to remind you on the 24th, February 24th, we are going to have a visit to Mankamto to look at quarantine and inspection